Wow, Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett has been on a roll this week. She called out the GOP's hypocrisy during the first hearing before the House Judiciary Subcommittee on Oversight. The Republicans continue to argue that January 6 defendants were political targets of the Biden administration's Department of Justice. Crockett was like, that's bullshit.
I will now recognize the ranking member from the great state of Texas, Ms. Crockett.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I just want to level set on a few things because my head has been spinning from some of the testimony that we have heard today. So just to level set really quickly, all of you have been involved with the criminal justice system in some way at some point in time in your lives. As it relates to January 6th, I just want to be clear. If anyone was incarcerated because of what happened on January 6th, they either went to trial or they entered pleas of guilty. Is that true or false? I'll start with you, Mr. Swecker.
I really don't know.
Okay.
I mean,
that's fine.
Yeah.
Mr. Fahey?
There would be
yes or no, Mr. Fahey? I ain't got that much time.
It's not a yes or no.
Okay, then I'll move on. I'm going to reclaim my time. I'm going to reclaim my time.
That's a separate category, but the people that were sentenced and incarcerated, yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Breen?
Yeah, I'm assuming that that was the process, although I understand the trials were not fair.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Mr. Ballou?
Every January 6th defendant who was incarcerated was charged or found guilty.
Thank you so much. It's interesting that we're not having a conversation around January 6th, and we're talking about school boards, and we're talking about people that never ended up being arrested. We're talking about the process seemingly working because there were people that felt like there should be an investigation, but ultimately they did not feel like there was anything that warranted going forward. But I can tell you for sure that we as Americans watched in despair because we did not know what was going to happen on January 6th. And as a result, over 1,000 people were arrested and or convicted. But the first day, the first priority that the sitting president had was to release these criminals. So while we're talking about whether or not we're going to be safe, I want to clarify these weren't little innocent folk that were running around and were persecuted as it was made out to be. In fact, we know that the day after one of those defendants got out, he was rearrested on a firearm charge. We know that soon after another defendant got out, he was arrested for child solicitation. We know that after another one got out, he was actually killed by law enforcement in a confrontation. And we know that after another one got out, she was sentenced because of a fatal car crash that she caused. So I want to be clear. In this country, we should believe in law and order. And I am going to be honest because much like Mr. Breen, the only time that I ever entered a criminal courthouse was in defense of someone, in defense of the accused. And it is because I believe in the Constitution. I believe that everyone has the right to due process. And as a defense attorney, I should show up ready, and I am hoping that the system works. But I say hoping because nothing on this earth is perfect. And one of the things that I actually used to take a lot of issue with was the fact that I did believe that there was a two-tier justice system. This is not something that the black community somehow woke up and said, oh, this is a new thing, although we're talking about it and we're meaning it in different ways because all of a sudden you had somebody with more power than arguably anyone in the world, and somehow Lady Justice found him too. And I say Lady Justice somehow found him because it was grand juries that had to indict him. And then ultimately, he was found guilty of 34 counts of felonies, at least in one courthouse. We know that the other cases never proceeded for various reasons. We also know that when he entered into civil courthouses, he was found liable for various things. Listen, I don't want to have the American people get it twisted. I don't want them to be confused and believe that just because somebody is a prosecutor or just because somebody brings a case, that somehow that is weaponization. If they bring it forward and if the justice system works the way that it's supposed to be, Mr. Breen, you talked about how your client was found not guilty, and I'm guessing that you accept that jury's verdict.
Certainly.
You accept that jury's verdict for your client?
Absolutely.
Okay, but I got to move on to a few other things really quickly. Christopher Wray. Mr. Ballou, do you know who that is?
Yes.
Was Christopher Wray appointed by Joe Biden?
No, he was appointed by President Trump.
He was appointed by President Trump. Now, Christopher Wray, for those that don't know, was the head of the FBI. And Christopher Wray, was he fired by Joe Biden just because Joe Biden was a Democrat that came in?
No.
In fact, Christopher Wray left the FBI when Trump threatened to fire him, but Christopher Wray still had time on the clock, didn't he?
He did.
So any prosecutions that took place, they actually took place under the Wray FBI department. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And the last thing, I know, Mr. Chair, I'm running out of time, just real quick. The last thing that I want to ask, because we've talked about the mayor of New York, is he a Democrat or a Republican?
He's a Democrat.
And he was prosecuted under a Democratic DOJ or a Republican DOJ?
A Democratic DOJ.
Thank you so much, and I will yield. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome, Ranking Member.
You know, it's amazing listening to these idiots who over and over and over again act as if these thugs, these white domestic terrorists who stormed the Capitol on January 6, 2021 are just innocent bystanders. I sat there even looking at the news today, Greg, how the Trump administration went to bat for the Tate brothers, who are accused of sex trafficking. When asked about it, Donald Trump goes, "Oh, I know anything about it." Yeah, but Rick Grenell, who works for you, pushed Romania to release them to the United States. They get off a plane in Fort Lauderdale. Ron DeSantis goes, "We don't want them in our state." Donald Trump is in love with criminals and thugs and racist. All these people who, oh, I know he's bad, but I voted for the policies. No, you voted for all of it. These people are beyond despicable, and thank goodness folks like Congresswoman Crockett are challenging them, forcing them for that guy to go, oh, yeah, the trials were unfair. Why? Because they had video evidence? Because the folks were guilty as hell? Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Yes, sir. I mean, I must say, while I enjoy Congresswoman Crockett's delicious shade, her ability to throw shade, I think that I certainly enjoy more, and I think that it is more unavoidable when she turns on the prosecutorial, litigious talent, like we just saw today, the leading questions that lead people to clown themselves. I think that's very effective. Clearly, there's a split in MAGA world. This Tate issue splitting those more quote-unquote conventional social conservatives, the handful that are left, from the white nationalist manosphere types like Donald Trump. Clearly, there's going to be fracture and eventually civil war, maybe sooner rather than later, with Musk sliding around the cabinet meeting with that black hat on his head looking ridiculous. Certainly there will be a civil war in the white nationalist faction. And we have to put the pedal to the metal. Certainly Congressman Jeffries is not built like that. He's more in the conventional mode. Certainly identifying someone like Elise Slotkin to give the response to Donald Trump's State of the Union is a signal that the Democratic Party leadership still doesn't get it. So the question facing the Democrats now is the one that is always facing them, except now all the hiding places have been laid bare, and it is this. Are you going to yield more time and space to the Jasmine Crockett's, to the Maxwell Frosters, to the Ocasio-Cortezes, to the Johanna Hayes, who was incredibly effective in some questioning I saw her engaged in a couple of days ago? Are you going to get out of the way of these people and let people fight? If you combine that with the kind of whistle past the graveyard, hope and pray strategy of the Jeffries and the Schumers and the Slotkins of the world, then you might be able to cobble a coalition together that will be able to move and do something once this civil war bursts into open conflict, as these benefits and as these jobs continue to be hacked away at by the white nationalists like Elon Musk. But I guess time will tell.
Ola.
Like Greg, what I really enjoyed, I completely agree with you. Like, I love her reads, honey, the way she can read you all the way down and change your whole life, because that lady, she did that thing to, anyhow. Um, I love the way that she used the law. Not only because that's her profession, but it did several things. So it exposed the hypocrisy. That was intentional. And secondly, sometimes you really do just got to pop out and show them. Like, people have to be reminded that Jasmine Crockett just isn't the fiery Black woman that has the great zingers and one-liners, and who can take down, fellow colleagues in Congress. No, this woman is a trained lawyer, as she outlined for you. And then she showed us, without being, over the top, without making it a performance, that professional Black woman showed up and showed y'all what her job is. Right. That's Jasmine showed up for her Black job today. Right. And so I really enjoyed how she really unpacked that methodically. And then the next thing I'll say is, I've come to believe that the narrative around January 6th is just that. I mean, Greg, you know this better than all of us. You're an attorney. It's about the thing that's going to win you the case, right? It's about whatever that winning argument is. And I think that these folks are just so focused on owning the libs and getting the W at all costs. That's the difference between how Republicans fight and have always fought and how Democrats fight. It's the at all cost part. So it doesn't matter if January 6th harmed, law enforcement, and it doesn't matter that they stormed the Capitol and that it was an insurrection. None of that matters. It's the win on the other side that matters. So if you have to tell a false narrative to get that job done, that's exactly what you're going to do. But Democrats, on the other hand, that at all costs part, that's where the line is drawn, and that's where there's always this tension. And I'm not saying that the line shouldn't be drawn, but the fear prevents them from going in a direction that they should be going in. Because right now, I can tell you, I'm part of a rapid response network called the Persist Network. And what we do is we rapidly respond to counter mis and disinformation. And I can tell you, being out here on these messaging streets, the folks are looking for a leader. It is not about who's going to bring the coalition together and who might be more palatable to one group. No, people are looking for a leader. People are looking for someone who is strong and, yes, at times loud, and who is not fearful. At the very least, Dems are saying we want someone who isn't fearful and who cares more about, how things look and how we appear as a party. We are decimated, y'all. We got to change the playbook. Them people been changed the playbook. I'll leave it there before. Let me relinquish my soapbox because I was about to go in a whole another direction.
Reese.
Yeah, I mean, why are we even still talking about January 6th? Like, who give a fuck? Obviously, nobody cared. Dems hung their hat for 4 whole ass years on January 6th, and people shrugged their shoulders and went and voted for Donald Trump to get back in the White House. So all of the propaganda that the Republicans are pushing about this, it is not moving the needle because people don't really give a damn one way or another. Maybe the Republicans do, but people who saw that, we all witnessed and we were all aghast by it, didn't give a damn when it came time to the elections. And so, Jasmine Crockett was doing her job. She did it brilliantly, as always. But I said back during the election, this democracy shit, this January 6th stuff, move on from that. Democrats should really be focusing, and this is not a criticism towards her because I know that was the purpose of that particular hearing. But Democrats really need to move on from this whole frou-frou idea that January 6th is something that we still need to keep relitigating. All the trial charges are dropped, the shit's in the past. We got bigger fish to fry with Doge, with Musk, with Trump, with this tax bill, with these deficits, with everything they're throwing at us. I don't really care. If Republicans want to keep with their rhetoric, who cares? That's how I feel about it. Now, I know that may not be a popular take, But the more that we're talking about that, they getting away with a whole bunch of other shit.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. And right now we're accepting investors in our $17 million round to revolutionize the future of social media. Today, for just $399, you can own 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $6.65 a share. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. While the big platforms have grown too massive and disconnected from their users, Fanbase is building a platform where creators and users truly come first. We've already raised $4.8 million from everyday investors who believe in this vision, and now you can join them. This is your chance to invest in a social media tech company with over 1 million users that is disrupting media by allowing anyone to reach all of their following and monetize their content from day one. The market is changing, big platforms are failing to serve their users, and Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now. Invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the future of social media.